The latest on the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore. Police now say 6 people are presumed dead after a massive cargo ship crashed into the bridge. The governor of Maryland now says he met with the victims' families, saying their strength is remarkable and they will be with them throughout the recovery mission. The big question now is what went wrong on that ship? ABC News transportation correspondent Gio Benitez is near the crash site with the latest.
An iconic part of the Baltimore skyline gone in an instant. The search and rescue mission at the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge turning into a recovery mission. Authorities say the 47-degree water and unpredictable currents are just too treacherous for the 6 missing workers to have survived. Officials searching for the cause of why that cargo ship, the size of the Chrysler Building, lost power and slammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing its catastrophic collapse.
The next months are going to be challenging and difficult.
Here's what we know. The container ship Dolly, seen here docked at the Port of Baltimore, left the pier at 1 a.m. Tuesday. Just before 1:30 a.m., a mayday call from the ship seeking emergency assistance.
Hold on traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching. It just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we got to stop all traffic.
Video shows the ship's lights going out twice as it approaches the bridge. Crews on board reporting power issues and loss of propulsion, apparently losing steering control. Dark smoke seen billowing. The last car crosses the bridge at 1:28 a.m. Then roughly 30 seconds later, the collision and collapse.
Dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Stars, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Search and rescue efforts beginning immediately in freezing cold waters. The search underway by air and sea for 18 hours.
From the outset, we moved all those resources in with dive teams from various state, local, and county agencies. We're doing our very best in some very difficult times and difficult conditions.
An 8-person construction crew was filling potholes on the 1.6-mile-long bridge when it collapsed. Their vehicles seen here. 2 were rescued shortly after, 1 running to safety, the other swimming to shore, now released from the hospital. Officials saying the 6 others are now presumed dead.
6 of our workers lost their lives, and 1 was seriously injured. This tragic event was completely unforeseen and was not something that we ever could imagine would happen. Our company is in mourning over the loss of these fine people.
And now authorities calling the quick work of the dispatchers and officers heroic.
They undoubtedly saved innumerable amount of lives.
We just looked up and it just was happening.
Witnesses capturing the moment of impact.
Yo!
Having just driven across the bridge for what they didn't realize would be their last time.
I was in a lot of shock. I just was in a lot of disbelief. It was unfathomable.
It's like something out of a movie. I mean, my stomach just sank.
And Gio Benitez joins me live now for more on this. Gio, what's the latest on the recovery efforts?
Well, Diane, that's going to be incredibly difficult. I want you to just look over my shoulder here because you can see that bridge. And there's just so much mangled metal that's gone down, not just underwater, of course, but above the water with that boat still in place very much there. But one of the issues here is that there actually is too much damage underwater for this to be a safe dive for divers to go in and start that recovery mission. So that's one of the things we're learning now at ABC News. We're learning that it's very dangerous for these divers to even go down there at this point. So it's going to be a monumental effort to get all of that metal and steel moved out of the way for this recovery effort.
And Gio, what do we know about the victims right now?
So we know that at least one of them is a father and a husband. And so that's really one of the parts of this is that there's so many families that are going to be suffering right now. They are truly heartbroken about this because there was so much hope for some time yesterday. But of course, these waters, they are very cold waters, and time was running out very quickly. And when this happened at 1:30 in the morning, it is just so dark that it made that search and rescue mission very difficult early on, and time was really of the essence here. So late yesterday, they turned and transitioned that search and rescue mission into a recovery mission.
Now, Gio, bridges sometimes have fenders on them to help boats avoid direct impact. Could that have helped in this case?
Well, the NTSB chair was on GMA this morning talking about any potential preventative measures that could be in place. We have seen fenders in place around the bases of bridges in the past. We don't know, though, when you're talking about that kind of ship. I mean, this is the size of the Chrysler Building in New York City, right? It's about 1,000 feet long. So it is a very, very large ship. It was moving at about 9 miles per hour toward that bridge, which is very fast for a ship of this size in this area. So we just don't know if even having a fender would have done anything at that point, but that's certainly one of the things that investigators are going to be looking at.
ABC News transportation correspondent Gio Benitez, thank you. And earlier on Good Morning America, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg spoke to Michael Strahan about where the investigation stands and what happens next in those recovery efforts.
At this point in the investigation, what do you believe went wrong with the ship?
I can't speculate on that. The National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, handles the investigation. They are independent by design, but I did see the chair there, and her team is already hard at work. Of course, my first thoughts are with the families that were impacted. Yesterday, still hoping against hope that their loved ones would be rescued alive. Now they are dealing with news that is just unthinkable. And the other thing that was really extraordinary yesterday to see on the ground was the work of first responders. We're talking about divers, law enforcement, Coast Guard, so many people working to respond to the scene, working tirelessly. And there's no question, as tragic as this situation is, that it might have been much worse if it weren't for their action. The closure of the bridge, when every second mattered after they got that Mayday call, the work that was done to immediately rescue the two people who were rescued, just unbelievable work. Now the longer work begins of getting that bridge back up and that port back open, and every day counts on that as well, because the implications for our supply chains and for so many people's commutes.
Yeah, so much is affected, and our hearts and thoughts are with those families and the victims of this tragedy, without a doubt. And you know what, we're learning that an inspection of the ship last year found some kind of issue with this propulsion system. Do you think that could have been a factor?
Again, I can't weigh in or speculate on anything related to the investigation. What I do know is that the force of this ship is almost unimaginable. This is a vessel that was about 100,000 tons carrying its load. So 200 million pounds went into this bridge all at once, which is why you had that almost instant catastrophic result.
But there are questions being raised as to why the bridge was so vulnerable to a collision. Some engineers, they say that it would have benefited from what's called a fender system. Do you think something like that would have helped?
Well, that's something else that the investigation will be helpful on. Again, it is difficult to overstate the level of physical force that hit this bridge all at once. I was there. I saw this ship. It is about as long as the bridge itself, and it went straight into that key supporting beam. What I will say, though, is that, you know, as times have changed, as bridge designs have been modernized, each generation of bridges is more resilient than the last. One of the reasons why we put such a focus on roads and bridges in President Biden's infrastructure plan is to make sure that we have the strongest possible infrastructure. Right now, for the first time, we are putting forward a dedicated federal round of funding specifically for making sure that our infrastructure is more resilient. We're doing a seismic retrofit to the Golden Gate Bridge to help it withstand earthquakes, making sure there are seismic provisions in the I-5 bridge in the Pacific Northwest, too. So we are at work right now to make sure that our infrastructure for the future is better prepared for any kind of threat. But really what we saw yesterday was just unimaginable in terms of the proportions of that ship, the size of a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier going directly into the key support beam of that bridge.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday was a major wake-up call for all of us. Secretary Buttigieg, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.